Hello, hello, and welcome. Getting clear that we are live on Facebook. And yes, okay, we are. Welcome, everyone. We're talking about cravings. I did a workshop a couple weeks ago on cravings. It is not in the group anymore, so don't go looking for it because it was an exclusive kind of one-time thing that was in the group for a few days and then it disappeared. Back in the vault. I'll bring it back again sometime. But I know I got a lot of questions. Women are raising their hands like, yeah, cravings. I need to get a handle on all the food that I'm eating, the chocolate chip cookies, the Doritos, the chocolate cake, the handfuls of Hershey's Kisses at the office, out of the office candy bowl, whatever it is. I had a lot of women reaching out to me saying I need help with cravings. So I want to break down what this cravings cascade is. Are you in a cravings cascade? And what is a cascade? It's when there's one, right? If you imagine like a cascade of a waterfall, there's multiple levels. There's that one level and the water goes down, there's another one and another one and another one, and they all feed into each other. And by the time the water's at the bottom, it's going on momentum, right? You need to be looking at this cascade effect. So if you are a woman who struggles with cravings and you try and willpower it through to not grab the handfuls of chips every afternoon or the cravings for chocolate and sweets, the processed foods at nighttime, and you're just not not getting a handle on it, then I want you to listen up, okay? Because this is for you, okay? Because there are four components to the cascade of cravings, the cravings cascade, however you want to say it, four. And if you're only looking at one of them, or maybe two, and you don't know about the others, then you're still really going to be in this battle. And I don't want you battling food anymore because I am telling you, my friend, you are way too important and way much too amazing and important to me and valuable and worthy to be stuck in the struggle with food for any longer. I don't want you there because struggling with food, it comes from all our backgrounds in the dieting world and the society telling us that we need to look perfect and be a certain size. It's BS. It really is. Okay. But unless we get out of this struggle with food, a lot of us are holding ourselves back and not showing up the way that we really want to, not going for that goal or that dream or that job promotion, right? Not going out and socializing with friends, right? Feeling insecure when we need to show up somewhere and be our best selves 'cause we don't feel like we are because we're not a certain size. And so we're in this like catch 22. So listen, I work with women who struggle with food all the time. That is the focus of the aligned body mind method, because when you align your body, okay, with the thoughts that you're thinking, so you're not in this internal tug of war, then it's so much easier. Okay, so I'm going to go off on a tangent if I'm not careful. I already just did because we're talking about cravings today. So we're bringing it back. Okay, what I want you to realize is that when we look at most, whether it's diet plans, cookie cutter programs, accountability apps, whatever it is, most of the time, most of the programs out there in what I find in the health industry, which I've been in for quite a while, they look at what's at the top, at the surface, and they're not talking about what's going on underneath. Okay? That's true in our struggle with food. That is true about cravings as well. So if you're thinking about cravings and all you're looking at is the plate of chocolate chip cookies on the counter, okay, or that leftover pizza in the fridge, and that's what you think the craving is all about, then you're missing a whole bunch of stuff underneath. Okay, kind of like that picture of an iceberg. There's just the tip above the water, but what's really the mass that's going on underneath that we just don't see unless we know to look for it. So I'm going to give you these four steps, these four um, pillars, components of cravings that you can be working as hard as you can. If you're not addressing these four, the cravings are still going to be there. Okay. So, because I want you to know that you can focus on what seems like eating enough vegetables or having protein or counting calories or whatever strategies you've used in the past and whatever strategies you've been told are supposed to work for you. Okay. But what happens is with with the more what I call cookie cutter programs, okay, where you don't actually get individual coaching for your specific situation. And if you're looking at approaches, I strongly recommend that you find someone who will work with you on a one-to-one basis. Absolutely. It is worth the extra investment to get that so that you can get the individual attention you need, a little bit of hand holding when life gets rough, right? And so it can be customized to your lifestyle because we're all in different places in our life. Okay. So if you in the past have been doing more kind of the cookie cutter program, okay, what happens is you're following someone else's rules, right? You're doing what you're told to do, okay? But what happened, and maybe you've seen some success, wonderful. What happens when you come to the end of the program or you stop following someone else's rules, okay? Or you stop subscribing to that app that you're using, any progress you've made, generally you lose it, right? Because you haven't, and it's not because you failed. Okay, I want to make that really clear. You haven't failed. The the system, the method that you were using failed. Okay, it was not the right system for you. Okay, so you learn from that, and instead of going back and following something similar, a similar approach, you got to go find a different approach. Okay, don't keep going back to what doesn't work. Be honest with yourself and look for something, a different approach that offers what these other programs didn't. Okay. Because if, unless you understand why you're reaching for that eighth cookie at 4 in the afternoon, or why you can't stay out of the pantry at 9:30 at night, then you're not going to actually make sustainable change in your life. You're going to keep going back and forth. You're going to be caught in that tug of war with food. Okay? Because you don't need more willpower to follow someone else's rules. Okay? You need skills so that you know how to make changes in your own life that last, that work for you. Okay? It's the same thing with cravings. So here I am. I'm bringing it back to the cravings. Okay? If you're relying on willpower to stay out of the chips and the leftover pizza, it's not gonna work. Maybe you do it for a couple of days, but nothing long term is gonna work. Willpower is not designed to be a safety net for us, okay? It's not. It'll fail you every time. Maybe not every time. It'll fail you a lot, enough to know you can't rely on your own willpower, okay? It is energy in us that runs out. Okay, it starts off strong in the morning, starts to go downhill during the day as we use it up. Okay, and by nighttime, it's all gone. So no wonder we have a hard time saying no to the chocolate and the chips and the wine. Okay, so we can't rely on willpower. Okay, we're too smart for that. We need to actually look at what's going on underneath. What the root cause is, understand what's going on so you can address it. Okay, so you gotta look at, why are the cravings hijacking your day? Okay, so here we go. If you're with me, please say hi in the comments. If you're watching on replay, let me know. Okay, say hi in the comments. Replay, put it in the comments right now. Tell me you're here. Okay, here we go. 4 elements. These are not in any particular order. Okay, because again, everybody's different, but these are the 4 things you need to be looking at if you're really struggling with cravings. First one is stress. Okay. And don't tell me that you don't have stress in your life, because we all have stress in our life. It's impossible to be in the society we are in, excuse me, with our access to technology and everything coming at us and not have stressors in our life. Okay. What happens is stress hijacks our brain, okay? Which means it's then going to release cortisol, which is our long-lasting stress hormone. Okay, it floods our body, okay? When we are living in a stress state and we have chronically elevated levels of cortisol in our body, okay, we are going to be subject to the effects of cortisol. And what are the effects of cortisol? There's a long list, but the ones that are relevant to this conversation is it's going to increase our drive for fast energy. Okay, we're going to increase the amount of food that we take in. Okay, not just the type, but the amount. Okay, and we're not going to be making smart food choices. So let me just break those three things down for you. If cortisol, because our brain is still evolved back in caveman times, okay, when we were living in caves, the stress then was we were getting chased by a lion or some type of predator. Okay, so it sets off this fight or flight response, and that we need to either fight or flee. We need fast energy. Okay, celery is not going to give us fast energy. Sugar is, though, right? So it's going to drive us for sugar and refined carbohydrates. Okay, so it's going to drive us to the type of food that we're eating. It's going to drive us to eat more because we need more calories to survive. Okay, and we're not going to be making smart food choices because what happens is in our brain, our prefrontal cortex, which is our executive thinking, rational mind, becomes when cortisol is elevated, there is less connection with our survival automatic brain. Okay, so our automatic brain takes over, okay? And because we've been practicing the habit of reaching for chocolate when we feel stressed so many times, and we've repeated that over and over and over again, those neural pathways in our brain, they are tight. They are in there deep. So we don't need to think. We're not even aware it's happening. We just grab the chocolate. Okay, that's what happens. That's the effect of cortisol. So stress, number one. Okay, here's the second one, sleep. Are you getting more than 7.5 hours of sleep every night? Okay, now if you are a mom of young children, then I'm sorry because I know you're not. I know the answer to that. Okay, but if you are able to be getting 8 hours of sleep a night, okay, more than seven, definitely. Okay, that's what you need to be doing. You need to prioritize your sleep. Here's why. Okay, and if you're sitting there saying, yeah, no, I can't. I can't get that many hours of sleep because I got to watch my shows at nighttime. I'm going to call you out on it. The sleep is more important. You're just prioritizing Netflix over sleep. But what happens when researchers take a group of people, normal, healthy men and women, have them decrease the amount of sleep they get every night by 1 hour. Okay, not a lot, just by 1 hour. Here's what they noticed. Their cravings went up the next day and they took in more calories. Okay, because they're tired. So they're looking for fast energy sources, sugar and caffeine. Okay, we're not digging into sugar like the sugar bowl. We're looking for that satisfaction of sugar and fat. That's what we're getting our cravings for. Okay, and they increased the amount of calories they took in the next day by 300 to 500 calories. 300 to 500 calories every day. That's going to lead to some weight gain and poor health, right? So you want to start to get a better handle on your cravings, start getting more sleep. See what that does. Okay, third one is nutrition. Okay, processed foods marketing will tell us that we need to. They are experts at selling us on eating more processed foods. We are surrounded by it. We're inundated by it. But those marketers work for food companies that it is their job to sell us those foods. And how they sell us those foods, once we taste it, we want more. We want more. We want more. That's because they are specifically created to light up the pleasure centers in our brain. Okay, these companies spend billions of dollars to create foods that will light up those pleasure centers so that we want more. Okay, so if your daily food intake is filled with a lot of processed foods, that will perpetuate your cravings. Okay, there's a reason that you can't eat just one potato chip or just one M&M, okay? It hijacks your brain, makes you want more. So starting to replace some of those processed foods with whole foods will have a big impact on cravings. Okay, I hope you're taking notes because this is important stuff for you. Okay. Fourth, okay, we got stress, sleep, nutrition. Fourth is emotions. If you find when I work with women, this is what I've learned from working with women around this over the years. When you have a craving for something really specific, like it needs to be the cupcake from that one cupcake shop, that certain brand of potato chips, right? It has to your I talk about my mom's apple crisp. Like someone else's apple crisp, it tastes good, but it's not the same thing. I want my mom's, right? When it's something specific, there is going to be what that's telling us is there's a really strong emotional component to that craving. Okay, you are looking for. You don't realize it. It's not aware because this all goes on in our subconscious mind. Okay, that's why I talk about sustainable change happens in layers. We need to be getting down to these layers. Our subconscious mind, that old programming, okay, is looking for an emotion of love, kindness, compassion, comfort, reward, something specific in that food. And unless you start to um, break free, break through those emotional ties that you have to that food, you're going to keep going back to it, right? Every time I want some comfort, I'm feeling really tired, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted. Yeah, a cupcake from my favorite cupcake store. That's what's going to make me feel good because I have really fond memories of when I used to get that with my kids, and it makes me feel connected to my kids. Okay, that's just one example. Okay, or if you have cravings for chocolate chip cookies that you used to make with your mom, okay, or your grandma or a favorite aunt or uncle, okay, then there you are going to be pulled towards those cravings because of that. You're looking for the emotion in the cookie. Okay, it's not about the food itself. You think it is, your brain's telling you it is. Your subconscious mind knows that you're looking for that emotion. So if you're really struggling with cravings for really specific foods that are connected to someone in your life or an experience in your life, you want to be looking at that emotional component. Okay, and that's why a couple weeks ago I did a Crush Cravings workshop where we really tapped it, literally did tapping on the emotional component, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. I had women posting in the group and messaging me, yeah, my cravings went from like an 8 down to a 2, an 8 to a 3. Someone else said an 8 to a 3. Like drug cravings, just like that, because we were addressing the emotional component. Okay, so if you are dealing with cravings and you're really struggling with them, I want you to have this cascade of cravings in your mind, okay? And get really honest with yourself. What pieces do you think you need to be looking at? When I work with women, when I help them, a lot of times it is not just one. There's usually more than one, sometimes all four. It just kind of depends, okay? So, what are your stress levels in your day? How much sleep are you getting? Do you have processed foods and refined carbohydrates in your daily diet? Okay. And what are your emotional connections to those foods? Those are the four things you need to be looking at. Okay. So I want to know as you're watching this, you take an honest look. Okay. Tell me which one of these do you think is contributing to your cravings? Is it just one of them? A couple of them? All of them? Okay. Let me know. So put in the comments below which one of these elements of the cravings cascade applies to you. And then, because I don't want you just taking in information, I want you to actually use what I'm sharing with you and make changes. Take a step forward. Okay. Don't just keep repeating the same patterns you've been in. What one, because we make one change at a time, what one are you going to start to address? Okay. What are you going to do to actually start to create a little bit of a change so that you can break free from these food cravings? Okay? So let me know. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll be checking back in the group later, and I hope you have an amazing day. Okay, take care.